a quarter of British honey is contaminated with pesticides called neonicotinoids that pose a serious threat to bees, research has revealed. The news comes after the EU partially banned these pesticides in spring 2014 on flowering crops such as oilseed rape. Before the ban, scientists found more than half of honey samples were contaminated. However, the fact the potent insecticides remain prevalent will put pressure on the EU to ban all outdoor use of them, with a potential vote in the coming months. Neonicotinoids are neuroactive chemicals similar to nicotine that have proved to be highly effective at protecting crops from pests, especially aphids and root-eating grubs. Years of research have shown that under controlled conditions the chemicals are toxic to honeybees and bumblebees, causing brain damage that can affect learning and memory and impair their ability to forage for nectar and pollen. While the frequency of neonicotinoid-contaminated samples fell once the EU ban was in place, our data suggest that these pesticides remain prevalent in the farming environment. Ben Woodcock, at the UK's Centre for Ecology and Hydrology, told The Guardian, only 2 to 20% of the neonicotinoids, which are still used on crops such as wheat, are taken up and the rest is left on the soil. The chemicals are a key battleground in the environmental movement, with campaigners demanding a complete and permanent ban on the pesticides as they are suspected to be harmful to bees. Our results suggest mass flowering crops, such as oilseed rape, may contain neonicotinoid residues where they have been grown on soils contaminated by previously seed-treated crops. Researchers led by Dr. Woodcock wrote in the paper published in PLOS One. The results of this national survey suggest that the EU moratorium on neonicotinoid use for mass flowering crops has been only partially effective in reducing exposure risk to bees. Researchers wrote. Scientists tested 130 honey samples collected by amateur beekeepers and are now developing a national scheme to monitor pesticide residues. Samples taken in October revealed 75% of samples from around the world contain the chemicals. They tested 198 honey and found 3 out of 4 were laced with at least one of the neonicotinoid chemicals. For the study, an international team of European researchers tested almost 200 honey samples from around the world for residues left by 5 different neonicotinoids. While in most cases the levels were well below the EU safety limits for human consumption, there were exceptions. Honey from both Germany and Poland exceeded maximum residue levels, MRLs, for combined neonicotinoids, while samples from Japan reached 45% of the limits. Samples from England had neonicotinoid levels that were no more than 1.36% of the amount thought to be safe for human consumption.